Hi, welcome back. I'm Chris Sikora, and I'm going to step you through exercise 6 in Autodesk AutoCAD 2021. And today we're going to take a look at a 3D model that we're going to build very rapidly, and then we're going to bring it into a drawing, just like you see here on the screen. And so let's begin. As you can see here, this drawing has a front, top, right, section view, detail view, and isometric shaded view. We've added some annotations, and we're just going to learn the basics about creating a drawing from a 3D model in AutoCAD. I'm going to go to New. And I'm going to use the AutoCAD 3D. And now let's go to the Home button, go to Top, and let's go to the Home tab and set this to 2D wireframe. We'll zoom out a little bit like that. I just used the scroll, and let's use polyline. And we're going to make that profile that we saw there. So let's turn on the snap to grid. Snap right there at the origin. Click, drag it up, and we're going to make bring this up actually full 2.5. So if you're not getting 2.5, you could type it in, or you could zoom out till you get that. So I'm going to click there. I'm going to zoom out a little bit more. And then this just goes diagonally across to 3.53. Click. And then 2.5 inches over here. Click. And notice I'm just following the grid, really. Click here at 2.5. Click there. There. And then close it. Or you can type C. Hit Escape. All right. Now we're going to put the circle in. So let's go to the circle. We'll go with center diameter, and right at this point here, click and drag out a circle and make it 1.5. All right, now we're going to go ahead and extrude that. Oh, actually, let's add a fillet. We'll add it as a sketched fillet. Somebody to ask sometimes, what's the advantage between a sketch fillet and a solid fillet? Well, in the early days of CAD, like I said, I've been using this for years, since the 1980s. Computers were very slow. Actually, they didn't have the 3D in that when I was using it until later in the 90s. But in the 1990s, computers, you were talking like a Pentium 60 or a Pentium 90 megahertz was top of the line at the time. And so with that, it would take literally for some of these features, like if you added a solid 3D fillet, it might take up to 5 minutes for that one fillet to actually be added. But if you used a sketch fillet, it was just a second. So there was an advantage for speed back then, but computers are so much faster now. We're talking milliseconds. So it's not as critical, but it is still considered an art to efficiently model. So if you can do it this way, then do it. Okay, go to fillet, and we're going to go ahead and set radius, and let's set that to 0.75. Enter, and then click this line to that line. All right, we're ready to extrude this. So I'm going to go to the Home button, and I'm going to proceed to go to Extrude, and I'm going to click and drag a fence to surround the geometry. I'm going to hit Enter, drag it up, and we want it to be 3 inches. Hit Enter. And we can actually shade it at this point. You can go to Shades of Gray. Now, here's the thing. That solid was added because I selected this extrude. So we're going to go ahead and do a removal. So let's go to a union, so solid subtraction, sorry, and select this solid here, hit Enter, and then get that cylinder in the middle when it turns blue. Sometimes you might have to rotate to the front or top orientation to get it. Click on that, hit Enter, and it should create the hole at that point. Okay, so let's save what we have. I'm going to go ahead and put this on my documents, and I'm going to call this E6, and I'm going to call it D. You could just call it E6. I've done this several times today in practice and preparation for this lesson, so I have several saved on there. All right, now that we have that, we can now go down here and go to Layout 1, any of the layouts really, right click and then select From Template. Now you might notice I have a landscape, We're not going to use it. That would be a customized one. And eventually I'd like to get that on my website, vertanu1.com, where you can download that. But we're going to use what everyone gets when they get the software, which is, if you go to sheet sets, go to manufactured imperial, which is a C size. It's rather large versus an A size, is hopefully you might know, 8.5 by 11. This is 4 times that. So anyhow, so we'll go to manufactured imperial C size. And actually 3 times, sorry, and hit open. And you'll see it's an ANSI title block. Hit OK. And there we could see the ANSI title block. And then we're going to go ahead and click on it. Now, I will show you at the end of this video how you can take from an old or legacy CAD system your old templates. And even an old AutoCAD drawing, bring it in, copy it into a new layout. So if you need an A size or a B size, you can do that. But this, we're just going to use what's in there as standard. Okay, now that we've dropped this in, we could go ahead and we're going to go to the Layout tab up here and go to Base and Model Space, from Model Space. All right, now you can see there it is right there. We're going to go ahead and just click. Now it gives us options, and what we're looking for is, first of all, orientation. Let's go with the top orientation. Now it automatically scaled it for us. It has an algorithm that automatically chose a scale that fits nicely front, top, and right views, with the assumption that, you know, there might be dimensions and things around it. So we're going to stick with that. If you wanted to take a look at it, you could go to scale and change it, but we're going to stick with what it's at. And scale isn't as important with solids as the old 2D drawings might be, so just be aware of that. So anyhow, we're going to go ahead and hit exit. Now move this pointer up like that, about that far, click, drag to the right. We're going to get a right side view right about there, click, and then bring to the upper right here the isometric, and maybe right about there you can click. Now don't hit escape. You have to right mouse button click. That's the mouse button we don't use very often in this class. So right click and select enter. All right, and so we could see it's added our drawing views. Now, first of all, how do we get this one changed? We want that to be shaded. Double click on it. And you get from the select options, hidden lines, or you could go in the upper left, there's hidden lines there. And if you clicked on that, you get these same options. You actually get nice icons that appear there. So we're going to go shaded with visible lines and then exit. All right, so that's taken care of. Now we're going to make a section view from this view here. Okay, so let's go to section and glide over here and infer. Like, say I hovered over that for a second, so it makes a line of inference as I just moved. I didn't click yet, but get a little bit above it. Then click. Drag it straight down and get a little past it. Make sure it's vertical. Right click. Well, actually, click with the. Then when I say click, I'm talking about the left mouse button. Then right click and enter. And it will drag off your section view over here. So click right about there. And let's go ahead and hit exit. And it should automatically crosshatch. Now if you don't like the crosshatch, remember, you can always click and then right up there we get the crosshatch actually information. I was going to go to the properties, but this is fine too. And here you could adjust the angle. You would be able to put in, if you wanted to rotate it 80 degrees, 90 degrees or whatever. And in this case, it actually came out quite nice, so I'm not worried. And I'm going to hit escape. All right. Let's put a detail view in now. So select detail view. Actually, I like to pre-select the view, even though you don't have to. Go to detail view. And let's say you want a close-up of this view right here. Let's get right on that point. Click, drag out a circle. Make sure the B letter is outside off the part. Click. Now just drag this right up here. Click again to release it and exit. Now here's where we might want to scale that hatch. So click on the hatch, and over here we have scale, and you can just bump up using little arrows. Typically you want it to scale even with the other, so we'll go to two instead of just 1, which is twice the scale. All right, and hit close hatch editor, and you can see there's other options there too. And now at this point, we will go to annotate. And let's add center marks. So go to the center mark tool, click on this edge here, and you'll see it will automatically add a center mark, as well as we could add one to this. And this one's a little tricky sometimes because of the crosshatch. There we go. Had to zoom up to it. All right, so we see that. Now let's go over here to the center line. And we want center lines here. So you select this, and that's that hole. And you could barely see them sticking out there. In this case, you don't see them as well, simply because there's an object line over it, or visible object line. So let's click on this, and there we have our lines. Now we could go ahead and start adding some dimensions. So let's go to the dimension tool. And notice they have these other options. Just go with the dimension. This dimension tool is pretty smart. It actually can do a lot of different things. Like, for example, if you just click on the line, you could drag it down. And drag this down pretty far. We're going to need some space there. Now, yeah, I'll take that dimension. That was a pretty good one right there. Click and drag that over here. Let's click on this point to the center there, or actually we could click on the quadrant, either one, drag it down until it straightens out. Click. Now we're getting some pretty big dimensions as far as trailing zeros. We're at very high precision here, which we probably don't need, which I'm going to show you how to change in just a moment. Let's go over here, this point to this point here, drag this out till it straightens. Click. And then we'll go ahead, that bottom line there, to this top right there, drag it out till it straightens out, click, and we'll put the radius on up here. Okay, and let's see what else. Oh, we could put the angles. Now just to show you how you do an angle, you click on the angled line, and then you could click on this line and put that 45 degrees in if you wanted to. But instead of doing that, you've already seen how you can do that. I'm going to hit escape and add a note. And so over here we have multi-leader. You could click on that, drag out a little note, click, and we just go ahead and type in, we're going to put 2.5, and I'm going to put the little quotes for inches, space, times, which is just x, 45 degrees, and now you could go up to the symbol library here, and degrees is at the top. And then space, chamfer. Okay, hit escape. I'm going to click on that and drag that a little closer, or a little far out there. Click. Okay. Now, some companies want you to do it differently. That's just where I used to work. That's how we would dimension a chamfer. So it depends on where you're working. This isn't a class so much on dimensioning as it is just using the software. All right, now let's add one more here. Go to dimension. Let's add it up here. 3 inches. And I believe, oh, we still have this little cutout here. Let's go ahead and from this point to this point, drag that down 2.5. All right, now we can see these trailing zeros are just some much higher precision than we need. Those of you in manufacturing are aware that trailing zeros add dollar signs as well because you're asking for extreme precision if you're not putting tolerances in. Anyhow, we are just going to go ahead and reduce this a bit. Now, where you go is under dimensions here, hit the little arrow, and we see annotative standard. Let's just stick with that. We're going to go with modify. And here's where you could set everything up to customize it. So, for example, we're in lines. There's a lot of neat things here we don't really need to worry about right now, but let's go to text. Now the text height, 0.18, that's the font size, basically, or the height of the dimensions, which actually seems to work really well with the C size sheet. If we were going with the A size sheet, I might make it like 0.10. All right. Also, the text style, you could select from some fonts that are available there if you don't like the existing one. I'm going to stick with what we have. I like that standard font. Also text placement if you want it centered, justification, things like that. Okay, let's go to primary units. And over here is what we're interested in, the precision. Let's set it to 3 decimal places, or 1,000th of an inch. Again, those of you in entering manufacturing and engineering, when you work for a design company or a firm, a lot of times you'll hear thousandths, like 0.030 is 30 thousandths. 0.001 is 1,000. Now, again, I always mention this in my classes. If you've taken math recently and never taken an engineering drawing class, that doesn't coincide with the terminology used in mathematics. So just be aware, they're very different. You could look it up, Google it if you want. All right, now here, zero suppression. Let's get rid of the zero. See the radius there has a 0 in front of it? We don't need that. The company I used to work at, we didn't need that. Also, if you have angulars, you could suppress leading or even trailing zeros. And tolerances, we're not going to add any tolerances, but you are able to put symmetric basic limit deviation into those. And you could do them individually too if needed. And there's alternate units, things like that. And then the symbols and arrows, you have different styles to choose from. And again, that's just preferences of the company you're working for or doing work for. Let's go ahead and hit OK. And hit, let's see here. All right, set current and close. And you can see they all updated now. They got rid of the extra zeros. We're in pretty good shape. Oh, I forgot one dimension here. Let's add it right here. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Let's zoom up to get that. There we are. Okay. And we'll just bring that down in this corner here. Okay, now let's see what we're going to approach next is, let's go down to the bottom here and we see this. You could click, drag that up a little bit. All right, and also I believe that's what we wanted to add. Now these hash marks that come on the standard template that everyone gets, if you want to modify those, just double click on them, the actual hash. Okay, and got on different layers there. There, I had strange. I double clicked on it before and I was getting some strange artifacts. Anyhow, we can see the value for the sheet name. I'm just going to put in exercise 6. Apply. Scroll down and see if you see any other hash marks like contract number. Just go over that. Backspace. Apply. See if there's anything else that you might have missed. There's more. We don't need that one. Backspace. Apply. And this one. Apply. And hit OK. And that cleans up your drawing a little bit. Also, I guess we don't really want that file name either. Just get rid of that. And you could put your name in, not under file name, but maybe put it up there if you like. You could use the multi-line text, so click on Note, and you would be able to put it right in there. Now this is using a different font. Click on it twice, and put your name in. Okay. All right. Now, if there's other things you want to change, like this text here, if you don't like that, you could click on it, then right-click on it. Oops. And if you go to Options, oh no, that's not what I wanted. This is a nice options menu though, but I was actually looking. There we go, properties, not options. And over here you have all the properties for that. So let's say you wanted to change that a bit, the text height. Instead of 0.24, we could change it. You don't even need to do that there. When you do click on it here, you could choose it from here as well. Oh, called me a liar there. Okay, never mind that. Let's go back to properties. Let's put that in. I thought I've gotten that to work before, but that's okay. Let's go with 0.2. There. All right, so pretty much everything is editable at this level. If you want to change the date, you can change the date as well. And now when you're printing it out, printing or plotting. Now there is the print or plot. If you go here to print plot, you'll see that it automatically picked this DWF6. I guess that's automatically preset with that template that we used. And you could preview it if you want, see how it turns out. And that looks pretty good. All right. Now, you could output it as a PDF. And what's nice, rather than in here trying to scale it down, once you put it in a PDF, even if it's a C-size drawing, you could actually print it from the PDF and tell it to scale a little bit easier sometimes than all this multitude of options, which there's a reason why there's so many options in here, because plotting they're a bit different than printers. There's old pen plotters that had little pens attached to them. There's and they support all those tools, so you don't always see that. Anyhow, all right, so there you go. You could select the PDF output and do that. There also is over here the export and PDF, and it's a little different. It doesn't seem to have as much functionality built into it, but if you set it to current, you're usually pretty good. So right over here, if you want to see it, open in Viewer, and we're going to save it as E6D PDF, and let's give it a second. It's using a PDF viewer right here, and it actually looks great. So as you can see, there's different settings. I'm just going to close that. All right, so as far as creating the drawing, we actually created a model and we created a drawing from it. It's not so bad. Actually, it's very efficient. Now, let's say you wanted to bring in an old template from another company, maybe someone's using a different software and they have templates that they want you to use. That's very common if you're working for a consulting firm. So have them send it to you. If they can, send it as a DWG file. I mean, if they actually have the template file, that would be the best. But let's go and open, and I already have one in here. And I saved it as Draw 1. And I'm going to hit yes and continue opening Draw 1. And here you can see it, and this one comes from a different CAD system. And we can remove certain things. Now we're just going to click and drag a fence to surround it. And Control-C on your keyboard. Copy. Now let's go to our E6D. Let's see if we could drop this in. The typical layout 1, even though it comes up looking like this, you could click and delete this. This is usually an A-size drawing, so you could Control-V as in Victor, and then move this and just center it as good as you could get it. Now there are like some tricks and things like that for getting aligned. This one doesn't fit perfectly. It's a little bit wider. Those little dashed lines there are indicators of where the plot cuts off. Okay, so I just clicked to kind of get it in there. I tried to center it as best as I could. Now you can go in here, and if you don't want these, you could click on them and delete them. They're still a little bit too big. You could put your own letters in over it, but the rest of the template is quite nice. Now you'll see here, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing again, but you could go back to Layout, and now you could go to Base from Model Space. And look at, we're back right where we started here. We could go to the Orientation, go with Top, Exit, Isometric View, Right View, and now right click and enter. And the hidden lines shaded with visible edges. And we're back in business. So again, and now look at this, you have an A size. I'm going to try and put that template up on Vertanu 1, Vertanu NUX. You could actually see on my video down below. There's a link if you go to my YouTube page down in the lower right corner of the banner. And you could go in there, and I'm hoping to have it in there, and so you could just grab it and drop it in and test it out yourself, or you could grab them from anywhere. It just has to be a DWG file, and then copy and paste it over. Make sure all the stuff is out of the middle, of course, but anyhow. Well, that concludes exercise 6.